The evidence of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming that many overlook. What if one of the clearest descriptions of the 144,000 is not found in Revelation 7 alone? What if the evidence is actually connected to what happens when Jesus returns? For years, Christians have asked the same questions. Who are the 144,000? Is the number symbolic or literal? And perhaps most importantly, why does the Bible spend so much time describing their character? There is a detail many readers pass over. John does not simply tell us that the 144,000 exist. He tells us what they are like, where they stand, whom they follow, what is written in their foreheads, and what they have refused to become. And when we place those details beside the promise of Christ's second coming, a remarkable picture begins to emerge. Today, we are going to examine that evidence carefully, and by the end, you may see the 144,000 in a very different way. The subject of the 144,000 has fascinated Bible students for generations, but this is not merely a question about a mysterious number in the book of Revelation. It is a question about preparation. Revelation presents a people standing with the Lamb. At the end of Earth's history, they are described as having the Father's name in their foreheads. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes, and they are connected with the final message of faithfulness described in Revelation 14. That is why this subject matters. The real question is not simply, who are the 144,000? The deeper question is this: what kind of people will be ready to stand when Jesus comes? That is where this study becomes personal, and that is where the writings of the early Adventist pioneers, including James White, become especially interesting. Before we continue, let me ask you a simple question. When you think about being ready for Christ's return, what quality do you believe matters most? Faith, obedience, or perseverance? Write your answer in the comments. And if this study is meaningful to you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's open the Bible. Revelation chapter 7 introduces us to the 144,000 in the middle of a dramatic scene. John says, "And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel." Revelation 7:4, KJV. Notice the word that appears here, sealed. The emphasis is not merely on counting, it is on identification. These people belong to God. They have been sealed. And that becomes even more important when we remember what happens immediately afterward. John sees another group, a great multitude, which no man could number, from all nations, kindreds, people, and tongues. So Revelation is not teaching that only 144,000 people will be saved. Instead, the chapter presents a much larger picture of God's redeemed people. But the 144,000 receive a specific description. And that description becomes even clearer in chapter 14, because there we see something many readers overlook. Revelation 14 begins with one of the most beautiful scenes in Scripture. John writes, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Sion, and with him 144,000. Revelation 14:1, KJV. Think about that image. The lamb is standing, and the 144,000 are with him. They are not hiding from him. They are not running from him. They are not ashamed of him. They are standing with Christ. And that tells us something important about the character of this group. Their identity is centered on Jesus, not on themselves, not on human achievement, not on earthly power. Christ is at the center. But then John gives us another detail. He says that they have the Father's name written in their foreheads. The forehead represents the mind, the place of conviction, the place of identity. In other words, the final conflict is not merely about outward behavior. It involves whom we have chosen to follow. And that brings us to one of the most important characteristics of the 144,000. Revelation 14:4 says, "These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth." There is something powerful about those words, whithersoever he goeth. Not only when the path is easy, not only when obedience is popular, not only when following Christ brings comfort, wherever he goes. That means the central question of end-time preparation is not simply whether we know prophecy. It is whether we know the shepherd. A person can understand prophetic charts and still fail to follow Christ. A person can know the signs of the times and still lose sight of the one who controls history. The 144,000 are different. Their defining characteristic is that they follow the Lamb. And this is where James White's early Adventist writings become significant. In A Word to the Little Flock, published in 1847, James White helped preserve and publish the early Adventist understanding of the prophetic experience surrounding the 144,000 and the Second Coming. The publication describes the 144,000 as the living saints in the prophetic scene, and it connects their sealing with the final events immediately preceding Christ's return. That historical context is important because the pioneers did not treat the 144,000 as a subject for speculation. They connected the subject with preparation, faithfulness, sealing, and the coming of Christ. And there is another detail we should not miss. Revelation 14:5 says, "And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God." That is an extraordinary description. No guile, no deceit, no falsehood. This does not mean these people save themselves. Salvation is always through Christ. But Revelation shows the result of allowing Christ to transform the life. And now we begin to understand why the subject is so serious. The 144,000 are not presented merely as people who possess special information. They are presented as people whose lives reveal their allegiance to God, their minds belong to God, their loyalty belongs to God, their words belong to God, their direction belongs to God. They follow the Lamb, and there is a reason this matters so much at the Second Coming, because Jesus is not returning merely to rescue people from the consequences of sin. He is returning to receive a people who have chosen him. If you enjoy following the biblical story chronologically and seeing how the major events connect across Scripture, there is also a useful resource called the Chronological Bible Handbook. It is available in the description. It can be helpful when studying how different prophetic events fit into the larger biblical story. Now let's return to Revelation, because there is still one more piece of evidence, and this may be the most important one. One of the most powerful connections appears when we place Revelation 14 beside the broader biblical picture of Christ's return. Jesus said in Matthew 24:27, "For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." Christ's return will not be hidden, it will not be secret, it will be visible, it will be glorious. And Revelation presents God's people standing with the Lamb. This gives us a profound spiritual lesson. The preparation for the second coming is not something we postpone until the signs become frightening. Preparation happens now. Every decision matters. Every habit matters. Every choice to trust Christ matters. Every time we choose truth over convenience, we are learning to follow the Lamb. Every time we choose forgiveness instead of bitterness, we are allowing Christ to shape our character. Every time we choose faithfulness when no one is watching, we are preparing for the greatest event in human history. And perhaps this is what many overlook. The 144,000 are not primarily a lesson about mathematics. They are a lesson about loyalty. James White lived during a period when the early Advent believers were studying the prophecies with extraordinary seriousness. Their experience taught them that prophetic understanding must lead to practical faithfulness. That principle remains valuable today. We can study Daniel, we can study Revelation, we can discuss the sealing, we can examine the 144,000. But if all that knowledge does not bring us closer to Jesus, we have missed the point. The Lamb is at the center of Revelation 14, not the number, not the controversy, not human speculation, the Lamb. And that may be the greatest evidence of all. If you want to continue studying the biblical timeline and understand how the prophetic events fit together, remember the chronological Bible handbook mentioned earlier. You can find it in the description. But now, let us bring everything together. The evidence of the 144,000 is not hidden because the Bible failed to explain it. It is overlooked because we sometimes focus on the number and forget the character. Revelation tells us they are sealed. They have the Father's name. They stand with the Lamb. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. There is no guile in their mouth, and they are presented as a people completely identified with God. That changes the question. Instead of asking only, "Will I be one of the 144,000?" Perhaps we should first ask, "Am I following the Lamb wherever he leads me?" Because that is where the message becomes personal. Christ is coming. The question is not whether his promise will be fulfilled. It will. The question is whether our hearts are being prepared to meet him. And the good news is that Jesus does not ask us to prepare ourselves without his help. He calls us to come to him, to trust him, to walk with him, to surrender to him, and to keep following him. The final generation will not be saved because they discovered a secret formula. They will be saved by the same grace that has saved God's people in every generation, the grace of Jesus Christ. So when you hear about the 144,000, do not let the subject create fear. Let it create a deeper desire to know Christ. Let it remind you that heaven is preparing a people who love the Lamb, a people who trust him, a people who follow him. And when that glorious day finally comes, the greatest thing will not be knowing that we understood every detail of prophecy. The greatest thing will be hearing the voice of Jesus and knowing that the one we followed on earth is now standing before us. The Lamb has come, and his people are ready. May that be our experience. May we keep our eyes on Jesus. May we remain faithful to his word. And may we be among those who, when Christ appears in glory, can look up with confidence and say, "Lo, this is our God. We have waited for him, and he will save us." Isaiah 25:9 KJV. Jesus is coming. Let us be ready.